Hi everybody, welcome back. Now today's video is something slightly different. We are actually dealing with a factory tour. Last year BAiley invited me down to have a look at their factory, and I also asked if I was able to film my visit. After some negotiations they said yes, and so we are taking you through the process of how a caravan is actually built. So it's in two parts, and that's because there's two facilities that BAiley actually construct all their caravan components. So let's join myself a few months ago down in the BAiley large panel plant on the outskirts of Bristol City. The BAiley large panel plant, or BLP as it's known, is BAiley's dedicated facility where all the panels, roofs and floors are built for the entire BAiley product range. This includes the motorhomes, the caravans for the UK market and for BAiley Australia. The facility has 4 production lines. 2 of these lines focus on creating the sides, 1 for the roof sections, and the final line is dedicated for building the vehicle floors. Today the plant is building all the panels for the Phoenix 640, and we'll look at line A, which is building the offside panel for the caravan. Behind the production lines are all the raw materials that make the panels and floors. We'll find here the inner and outer skins, the polystyrene core and the colossal amounts of adhesives. You'll also notice a different coloured foam here for the floor, and we'll look at that a bit later on. But for now, let's focus on the caravan sides and the polystyrene core. The very first step is to cut the polystyrene into the correct shape. So the white polystyrene core is loaded onto a pattern cutting machine. Using a cutting head, the sheets are cut to form the outlines of the caravan sides. Lockers, doors, windows and areas that require strengthening are cut out on this sheet. Once cut, the sheets are stacked next to the correct production line, ready for the next phase of the production process. The next step is the actual assembly of the sides. At this stage there is already an external skin laid face down and a layer of adhesive is set in place. The polystyrene sections are laid out in the correct place as well. Composite plastic extrusions surround all the windows, lockers and doors, as well as the perimeter of the panel, and places where furniture will bolt directly to the caravan side. Now I mentioned that the polystyrene was put in the correct place, and to help that you may notice a flickering of green on the screen. Well, this is from a laser that is mounted above the production line. I've slowed down the footage and I've limited the exposure on the camera so you can see it a bit better. This laser outlines accurately where items should be placed, and these items include the insulation core and the plastic extrusions. Once the panel is laid out, a further layer of adhesive is applied and then the inner skin is placed on top. Now that the panel is basically constructed, it's time to bond all the parts together in the next step. So the very next step in the process is this huge heated press. This press activates the adhesive and creates a strong caravan panel. You will notice that the press can stack multiple panels, all of which have the same amount of time, pressure and heat applied, all of which is controlled automatically. Once ready, the bonded panel is rolled out onto the cutting bed, and at this point I noticed raised section on the side, and this is completely normal. The raised sections are where the extruded plastic struts are, and this would make more sense once the holes are cut out into the panel. The panel is accurately positioned on the bed, and an automated cutting head first locates this panel and then makes its first set of cuts. All the external lockers and doors, windows and vents are all cut out, along with holes for captive nuts and fixing points. All the cuts are cut via a series of automated programs and a variety of cutting tools. I could have watched this for days. It's completely mesmerising watching it accurately and quickly making all the cuts on the caravan panel. I will also add, it's incredibly difficult to film because this thing really moves quick. Once the router has finished cutting, the caravan panel is moved along for final finishing. This part is done by hand. Using some scrap polystyrene, the panel is prepared ready for transport. The outlined infills are now removed from the panel, and some of the cutout lockers also have inner sections that need to be removed. These are used for locker doors such as toilet hatches and gas lockers. And you'll also notice that they're using a jig to cut sections around the bottom edge of the panel. A hole is created here using this jig, and then a captive nut is inserted into this cavity. This is where the floor is bolted to the caravan side. Once all the panels are complete, they're numbered, recorded and stacked ready for transport. But before we follow these panels to the next phase, let me show you some other areas of this factory. All the leftover polystyrene is removed from the panel leftovers and the cutting bed, and is compressed into these blocks. These blocks are recycled and used as a low impact packing medium. In fact, there is very little waste here, and this is something that BAiley pride themselves on. Another area to pay attention to is the quality control section, where adhesive spread is thoroughly analysed, weighed and tested. Sections of panels are randomly selected for further investigation to make sure that the panel is being built to correct specifications. Over on line D is the last of the Phoenix floors being produced today. They're just about to change over to motorhome production, so let's look at the very last floor being finished off right now. Up to this point it's pretty much the same as the caravan side, except the raw components include a marine grade plywood, high density foam and a longer and a higher pressure in the press. The router has just finished cutting all the sections out, including the wheel boxes, battery box and gas drain down holes. The floor is significantly heavier than the sides, so it requires some suction to move down to the finishing area. The entire surface is hand finished to ensure it's completely flat. Now, whilst I was filming parts of the floor having further preparation, I noticed something quite bizarre happening in the background. This chap isn't having a bad day, it is in fact a test to make sure that the glue has adhered to the plywood faces on the floor. If the foam fails like this, and no gaps are visible, it means that the glue has been successfully activated and applied correctly. In the rare occasion that the test reveals a flaw, the floor panel itself is removed from the production line, it's destructively analysed further, and then finally scrapped. Thankfully this one is fine, so it's flipped over and stacked with the rest of the other floors ready for shipping. And that's where we'll leave those floor panels, and we'll see those again in the next video. Now, throughout this video I'll be mentioning that all the panels have been prepared ready for transport, and those panels, the fronts, the backs, the roofs and the floors are collected up to 5 times a day and sent over to BAiley UK, the main hub and the main factory floor. And you'll see all of those parts being delivered as and when they are needed on the production line. So that's it from me today. It just leaves me to say a huge thank you to BAiley for allowing me to film inside their factory production line. And until next time, we'll see you very soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.